In the past few weeks, Texas has been busy passing bills not only to effectively outlaw abortion while setting up a bounty system for those who assisted women in exercising their reproductive rights, but also harshly limiting voting rights as well. So we've talked about this on the network, but what is being done? What can be done to fight back against these sorts of bills? Well, to get into that, we are very lucky to be joined once again on the program by the justice correspondent for The Nation, Elie Mystal. Welcome back to the Damage Report.
Thanks for having me. At this point, I think Texas is about to steal Pee Wee Herman's bike and put it in the basement of the Alamo. Like that's the level of evil they're at.
I get that reference. Anyway, and that would be the last straw, and someone needs to fight against it. So, Elie, I know that you've been writing a lot about what Texas has been up to. I'm curious, you know a lot about the Constitution. You have a lot of experience with the Supreme Court. Are you surprised at the brazenness, at their what do they call them? It's an innovative constitutional novel. Yes, it's quite novel the way they've gone about this, and the Supreme Court is going along with it. What do you make of all of what's been happening?
I'm not surprised, and you can't be surprised because this is what conservatives on the court have promised to do for a generation. In fact, doing this, taking away women's rights, taking away voting rights, taking away labor rights, is why they got the job. These people, the people like Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, these people didn't drop out of the sky, all right? They were groomed like in a vat by the Federal Society to do exactly what they are now doing. So when people like me for years, I mean, literally for decades, have screamed that we have to watch these people, we have to worry about these people, we have to do everything we can to stop these people, this is what we were talking about. Because the conservative controlled Supreme Court is going to do things like this, like they're gonna drop hits like every single day. When it comes to taking away people's rights, that's literally why they got their jobs.
So it sounds like you're concerned. Are you concerned? Do you share the concern with Justice Amy Coney Barrett that they might begin to be seen as partisan, or that they have some sort of slant? Are you worried that someday we might reach that point?
This trifling woman just goes up to the Mitch McConnell Center, introduced by Mitch McConnell, to complain that maybe people think that she's partisan. If she could have given that speech on top of RBG's grave, it would have been less trolly. I don't know. I've been saying a little bit online, like the real issue. It's not that she says this because she's a bad person. She's going to say these things. It's that we have a corporate media that is willing to repeat it, that is willing to amplify it. If you looked at the headlines immediately after her speech, they just gave her the headline she wanted. Amy Coney Barrett concerned about partisanship. Many of the pictures, even, I know this seems like I'm getting like nitpicky, but many of the pictures even just showed her and not the wide shot of her standing next to Mitch McConnell while she said it. And I pick on these nits because the Amy Coney Barrett's entire career is only possible because the media drops the ball, right? And to a large part, the current conservative control of the Supreme Court is only possible because the media does not focus on the courts, does not know how to report on. One of the analogies that I've made a lot is like if you read financial press, if you read financial stuff, right? You read Aaron Ross Sorkin, right? You're reading people who are very knowledgeable about markets and rates and blah, blah, blah. Like they come with a level of expertise and explain it to people, assuming that people need to get at their level of expertise to understand it. Matt writes at like a certain level and expects others to like meet him at least halfway, right? When it comes to legal journalism, you have people with no expertise most of the time, with no training, with no ability to really get into the deepness and the nuances of what these people are doing. And so they instead, more often than not, end up just like, repeating press releases, doing the legal version of just repeating the press release that these justices want out there, that the Federal Society wants out there. And like everybody is dumber for that project.
Yeah, well, at least the stakes are low. So anyway, so look, I want to talk about what might happen, what can happen, what you'd like to see happen. So first of all, the Supreme Court has allowed this system to stay in place while saying that they can return to this topic potentially, which means that at least hypothetically, they could knock down the entire thing. Do you think that's likely to happen? And if not, what do you believe they will do, if anything?
Well, I think whether or not it happens, it's a red herring. Like, without getting too much into the legal weeds, right? What the court did was say that the Texas law, with its crazy bounty system, presented a novel legal issue. Now, usually what you do when you have a novel legal issue is that you restore the law to the way it's always been. You hold precedent. And then later, when you have time, you dig into the merits. You dig into the allegedly novel legal issue. The court went the other way. They decided, because they didn't know what the right answer was, to just let Texas take away rights from women and girls in the state, and then they'll get to it later to dig into the merits. That's the kind of opposite way of the way it's supposed to work, and only happens because there are 6 conservative justices who are committed to taking away women's rights. If they eventually get around to overturning or stopping the Texas law because of its crazy bounty system, that is not the end of the story, because the Supreme Court was already poised, and this is an important point, was already poised to take away women's rights and overturn Roe v. Wade this term with an entirely different case coming out of an entirely different state. That state is Mississippi. Mississippi has a 15-week abortion ban. No bounty hunters there. The state just won't let you do it, except for in the health of the mother. No exception in Mississippi for rape or incest. That law directly counteracts Roe v. Wade. It has been such a direct countermand of Roe v. Wade that it's already been knocked down by lower courts. But the Supreme Court agreed to hear it. And most likely the reason why they agreed to hear it is so that they can allow the Mississippi law and either directly overturn Roe v. Wade or functionally overturn Roe v. Wade this June. So regardless of what happens in Texas, what's gonna happen this June in Mississippi is gonna be the thing. So even if they take away, even if they stop Texas, the hammer has been coming on this, set for June 2022 for a long time now.
Wow. Okay, well, we're gearing up for exciting times. In the meantime, in advance of the hypothetical, what they might do, and then the case that you're talking about right there, the DOJ is suing, which you described that as the next best thing to forcing Texas Republicans to magically become decent people, which that's the road I'd go down. I think that's a good one.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.